Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another week here on YouTube and our podcast platforms. We are the Think Different Podcast. Will, TLD, former Apple retail creative and genius, along with my man, Mr. Keto, beautiful, sexy, my Valentine, Frank Funk. Morster.
Too much information, Will. Too much information.
We agreed that we would be each other's Valentines this year because our wives have done something else and they don't want to be a part of our Valentine's Day traditions. So here we are together for another great week.
That's right. Another wonderful Apple week, huh?
That's right. Instead of doing news this week, we're going to skip right to our subject. We wanted to talk about the tips and tricks of being an Apple user. And these are just things that we feel as an Apple product owner, doesn't matter if it's Mac, iPhone, Apple Watch, even AirPods, nothing else matters. But we found that these 10 tips that we like should be the things you should look for of why being an Apple person is the best experience. And I can tell you, Frank, I got a work phone that is a Samsung. That thing is so annoying. I don't know how people think that's a better experience than an iPhone. Now, I've been around iPhone since the very first one, but I can tell you that I just can't, I just don't get it. I just don't get it.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with not what you know, but what you're familiar with. So if you were a mobile phone user and said, I'm not going to pay that kind of money for an iPhone, you went for something less and you would pick up a Samsung or a Motorola or whatever, an Android of some sort, and that's what you're used to, that's what you know. Mm-hmm. So that's what you're familiar with. I too, when I get my hands on an Android, I'm like, I don't think it's as intuitive. I don't think it's as simple. I can relate an experience where a person had a Samsung and they wanted me to help them put contacts on. So I put some contacts on, and it just seemed like you had to drill so far down into the menu to add a contact. And then it didn't even relate to other apps, like your mail, like, those kinds of things. And I was like, just seems silly to me. But
the simplest thing I could think of when I've been using this, when I go to the phone app, the voicemails is in a different app. Like, that to me is not easy to figure out.
Yeah, right.
So that's a simple thing I'm talking about that is just so hard to figure out when it comes to a Samsung. But we're not here to talk about Samsung, although they make great displays for our Apple devices. Let's talk about what we feel are our top. Each of us have 5 tips apiece. And you know what, Frank? I'm going to be selfish. I'm going to start because it was my idea for the subject. It's my show. That's right. You're just here to give us keto advice and to give your, grandpa opinion.
There you go.
So my number one feature, and I remember the day we both worked at the Apple Store right when this came out. It was macOS 10.5.
Yes.
And they were touting this was the biggest release of all time. And I remember being in the store when the mob of people came in to buy this software for $129. And some people even stayed at the store while this was actually installing, which of course we were not encouraging even back then. But the number one feature why I think most people wanted this, not only for just the different look of the whole, like they reimagined the entire OS, and TimeMachine was the number one thing that I was so impressed with, that they were and think about this is 2007 that they came out with this idea. And if you don't know what this is, it's a built-in backup feature for your Mac to automatically back up your personal data, including apps, music, photos, email, and documents. And to this day, you will not even have this feature in a Windows without paying for it.
Yeah.
And they gave it to you for, at the time, which was $129, which ended up becoming free when 10.8 came around.
Yeah,
so,
when I saw this on your list, I thought, I completely forgot about that. And you're right, it's a very big deal, and it's something that you don't realize it's even working. So once you set it up and you tell it to go and you put an external drive in, it just runs, and your Mac is being backed up automatically, and that's the beauty of it.
And the key feature is you have to have an external hard drive. So, and I've always said this to the Genius Bar, it's going to cost you you could buy the cheapest drive you want, because backup drives are meant for one thing, and that's just to back up your stuff. It's not meant to work on, it's not meant to do anything except back it up and recover it. It just depends on how fast you want it returned to you, or how fast you want to move it over to another device, which makes the difference. But for $80, $70 to do that, or would you rather pay $1,000 to get data recovery, especially on an SSD Mac?
Yeah.
And especially now Macs since 2016 that are built on the logic board. So data recovery is nearly impossible. So TimeMachine will always, for me as a Mac user, be the number one reason why I would do it. It's the number one selling point to me. It's like all you got to do is pay $50, $60. Drives are so cheap now.
Yep.
It doesn't make any sense not to do it. So TimeMachine is my number one.
My number one was iCloud, allowing all your devices to store your files in iCloud Drive. It's a big benefit. You can store all your photos, store all your notes, all your contacts. And when you do this, all of the devices have access to that information. You only have to input or update the data from one source, and it updates across all of your devices. Major feature. Mm-hmm. And if your devices are stolen, you don't have any of your devices, you can go on any machine with a current web browser, log into iCloud.com, and still have access to all of your information. Mm-hmm. To me, iCloud is as important as TimeMachine is to a Mac for your backups. It gives you access across all your devices, Macs, iPhones, iPads, whatever.
I remember back in the day, I'm going back to 2007 again, .Mac is what the original version of this was called. .Mac included, the normal mail, contacts, calendars, but some of the hidden things was iDisk, which ended up being files, which iCloud files ended up becoming. Yep. But iDisk was a huge deal for me because cloud storage back in 2007 wasn't exactly an easy thing to get. Maybe Dropbox was just out, where you only got 5 gigs. And this plan was it was 20 gigs or something like that, like a default option. And the biggest reason I did .Mac was because they gave you a hosting option. That means you could do your own website, which we had iWeb back in the day, and you could do your own podcast feed. So
I hated it when they discontinued iWeb.
Yeah.
iWeb was, it was a very easy way to create a website and host it. It was.
Now, I would say Wix has surpassed that feature. I was using iWeb for my own personal website, but yeah, definitely was the way to go. But iCloud, again, it's such an important part of Apple's ecosystem that that's why Apple's number 2 was services.
Yeah,
and iCloud is probably the major reason behind that.
Now, I don't know if everybody uses iCloud who has Apple devices, but they should.
They should. I don't know why you wouldn't.
Yeah,
Apple has to start being a little more lenient on the 5 gig plan that's for free, and then up. People. Google Drive gives you 20 gigs, or Dropbox gives you 15 gigs. Like Apple's got to be a little more lenient, I think, on the original storage amount. Right. I like to say the 5 gigs a trial to a new user, like a trial. Yeah, and then if you really dig the options, then you pay 99 cents a month. The only thing that comes close to this is Google, and Google, I'll be honest, has a very good ecosystem. I just joined YouTube TV now. I'm now a YouTube TV guy. I got rid of my DirecTV. Yep. And now I have that. I do store all these items on the Google Drive for all of our audio files. Some of our videos are up there just hanging around. So I absolutely take advantage of Google's, and they do a very good job. It just sucks that, the only device you could do that's all built into that is their own phones. Yeah. But, Samsung, you could do it, but it's extra steps. Where Apple, it's built right into the setup, and it's real easy. So, good one, Frank. iCloud is definitely one of my favorites. Now, my second feature that I really love that people I don't think take advantage of is finding and identifying your photos using the Faces feature inside of Photos of a Mac. As you import new photos into your library, photos are automatically matching any people to them that you identified already, and you can manually identify them. And I'm starting to really take advantage of that, because when Luke was born, I immediately started that. And now I'm going to see Luke grow from being born to being 1 year old, and Faces is going to automatically do that. Now, of course, you go in and confirm other faces, but everything's organized by date.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a feature that's so powerful that I don't think people do.
Well, I don't think people want to invest the time. I mean, they say they do, but then they don't. You have to go in and you have to identify people. And if you have a lot of photos, it takes a while for the system to go through those photos and for you to confirm person that it is. But once you get it done, it is a nice feature. It's a very nice feature.
I would say on the phone it's a little bit harder. Like if you wanted to put a face on somebody but the app doesn't recognize it, you do have to go on the Mac and do it. Yeah. But on the phone, this is such a powerful thing. Look at this. I mean, everything. Look how organized I have all these different people on here. Of course, I'm number one. You know, but even it goes all the way down.
I don't see me in there.
No, Frank, I don't think I have a picture of you. Top us together, but you can see like all these different photos, and you could just go to somebody and add them. I think it's so convenient to have that, and I think people need to take advantage of it. So go take a look at it. Try to use the Faces feature; it'll blow you away.
Yeah, I have some pictures of Tara, but none of you. Whoa.
Oh. Should I tell your wife?
No. My number 2 is the Apple Mail app. When I was in the store and we would do setup, a lot of people would say, "Oh, I use Google Mail, or I use this, or I use Hotmail, or this or that," and I don't think people realize that the Apple Mail app, you can have multiple email addresses connected to that. And it allows you to put in a Hotmail address, to have a Google address, to have a iCloud address, and manage them all from either one inbox or multiple inboxes. And to me, it simplifies the mail process. Like you were mentioning before about another app on the Samsung to go to voicemail. Why would you want to have Google Mail, a Verizon mail account, and so on and so forth, when you can have them all managed through the Apple Mail app? I tend to try to keep things as simple as possible. And so I really like that app a lot. And you can, I have a Gmail address, I have my iCloud, but my iCloud is my primary one. I use the Gmail when people insist on having an email address.
Is that for all your coupons?
Yes.
Is that where your old man coupons go? Now, I'm sure most people on their phones use this feature, because I think that app is the best regarding how to organize all your mail. It's definitely one of the better ones. The one on the computer, I think, needs a little more improvement. Like, I'm using Outlook on a daily basis, and there's so many plugins and add-ins that you can add to it, where Apple doesn't have that on the Apple Mail app. Now, typically they're in separate other apps, but the convenience of having all of them in one is a little convenient. And I do like that sometimes. So in my opinion, they didn't combine the Contacts app or the Calendar app like they do with Outlook, but also Outlook you have to pay for too. Right. So you don't get that for free. It's part of your 365. So it's really up to you. But I think the benefit of it is the share feature. If you want to share it to your mail, that's why. I mean, you could definitely install Office 365 on your Mac and have Outlook be your main one, and then if you want to share stuff, it can go there. You can do it, but it's very convenient. But I think iCloud itself as an email is not the best. I definitely think Gmail is probably the best. Well, I think they got that tied down. But as far as like the mail client you're referring to, yes, I would agree Apple's the best.
Yep. So that was that's another one that I tend, like I said, I try to keep things as condensed and as simple as possible. I don't like to have multiple apps that do the same thing. So that's why where I can consolidate them, I do.
Fair man.
So your next one.
Yeah, so my next one is a feature I have never used yet, but I can't wait to use it, and that is Sidecar, where you can use your iPad as a display that extends or mirrors your Mac desktop, wireless or wired. I'm not running Catalina where this was introduced, but I saw it
You're
in
about a year behind, buddy.
I'm almost 2 years behind now. But the plan is once I'm done with editing my weddings, that is when I'm going to do it, because I still have to find a solution for my old Photoshop and my old Adobe Encore, because they are not going to work anymore once I do that, and I will need them. So my only other solution is buying an old computer that's been modified and has the old operating system on it to protect me.
Have you explored Affinity Photo?
I have Pixelmator, which will be my replacement for Photoshop, but Encore is a necessary thing to make Blu-ray menus, and I need that. Especially, so that will not go away for me. So I will likely have to have a separate computer that'll just be for that task only. So, but with Sidecar, regarding that feature, I love the idea of having a secondary display. Like if I just want to have my mail there or my messages there.
Yep.
And connect them together, or if I want to, even with Final Cut, I could have that be like a window for something.
Yeah.
It would be very beneficial for me to have that, and I would always do it wired because I've seen the wireless and it's not that great sometimes. I do see it kind of lagging a little bit, but the wired though was very strong, and I think Sidecar, when they came out with that feature, that one just is amazing to me. I think that's a good reason, and that's a selling point. Like, do you have an iPad? Great, you can hook it up to your device, and it can act as a secondary display. How cool is that?
Well, my next one is something I know that's near and dear to your heart, and we talked about a little bit last week.
On almost everything.
On almost everything, and that is to always purchase AppleCare on whatever product you get. If you use it once, just once, in the 2 years that it
especially
usually
for
covers,
physical,
it more than pays for itself. Some people say, well, why would I want to spend that money? I'm not going to drop it. It's not going to get scratched. It's not going to do this. Well,
yeah, right.
It happens.
I was told by AppleCare.
Yep. So that to me is another big one, and I think that for what it covers on most of the products, it's well worth the price.
What products would you say it's not worth? That's more so the question.
Well, I don't know that it's not worth it, but I don't see a lot going wrong with the Apple TVs.
Right.
Maybe there.
But to me, Apple TV HomePod and AirPods are not worth it for me.
Okay.
They're definitely not worth it for me. Even if I lose them, I don't think that's. I mean, I don't know if AppleCare Plus is on it. It might be. Or
how you gonna lose a HomePod?
You could lose a HomePod. You could definitely lose an AirPod.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't you take your HomePod with you everywhere?
Yeah, I plug it into my car.
Yeah. Well, good luck getting that thing to work to the internet. I don't know how you're going to do that. But yeah, AppleCare is such an important purchase because you have to explain why, especially now. Apple has given more benefits to AppleCare than they ever done. When they started adding physical damage coverage, that changed the game for me.
Oh, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I mean, cracked screen.
You could pay $279 for one crack on my iPhone 11, or I could pay $199 and then pay a $29 deductible. Does that not make them? And by the way, I could do that 4 times in 2 years.
Yeah.
And I could buy an extension now that we learned that from last week, from our last episode.
How about on a MacBook Pro? What's it cost to replace a screen on a MacBook Pro?
$99 if you get the AppleCare Plus. If you don't have AppleCare Plus, $475. And that's on a 13-inch, and a 13-inch I believe costs $269. So again, you're paying for itself on one accidental damage coverage.
And especially if you're a college student. I mean,
or a stupid person that likes to break their stuff.
Yep.
If you're very emotional and you let your feelings get out on your computer, you need to get AppleCare Plus.
Yeah. Well, any college student that doesn't use TimeMachine And Apple Care Plus
deserves everything they get coming to them.
That's right. You're right.
That is absolutely true. And my next thing, which does not tie into anything we're talking about, is iMessage. Because the core features of iMessage, which is available connecting all your platforms together, including text, images, videos, documents, and you get your delivery and read receipts, end-to-end encryption, which means nobody, including Apple, is able to intercept or tamper with sent messages.
Yeah.
And that is probably my number one reason, is the end-to-end encryption. No one can get into these messages, but also the idea that I can respond on my Mac and answer on my phone and then go to my iPad. Everything just works together with iMessage.
Yep. Yeah.
And that includes SMS.
My wife's big on, she likes the Facebook Messenger. I said, okay, have at it. You just ask.
So is my mother-in-law. That's the same thing. She's no different. But she has she's a very, she's a Republican by heart. So,
well,
she has to be careful what she says.
I just try to tell people, listen, not that I technically need end-to-end encryption, but why would I text someone or send a text message to someone that it's going to go to Facebook and they can do whatever they want with it?
Mm-hmm. And we're in a battle right now with that, by the way, because Apple is about to limit what tracking can be done on their Facebook app, which is a big thing right now, where Facebook believes that they are going to be screwed, because now when the update occurs, the next update that is supposed to come out is supposed to include a tracking option that you could turn off so that Facebook cannot track your activity, what you do.
Yeah, but you know what? I think this is all filibuster on Facebook's part, because you know as well as I do, Will, people do not read. They do not read. Wait
a minute, no one reads the terms and conditions, Frank?
No, not even Adam and Eve. They were the first ones not to read Apple's terms and conditions.
And that's why we have a sin. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Adam and Eve, you dumbasses.
But I mean, you know yourself how many times people install an app and they get that little pop-up screen that says, "Do you want to allow this app to send you notifications?" And they just hit allow.
Okay.
And then they keep saying, "Why do I get this all the time? Why do I get this?" Well, because you dumbass, you didn't read it.
Yeah. You just press buttons because you think you're smarter than the phone is smarter than you sometimes. I hate to say it.
And I think that's what. Even though Facebook is talking a lot about it, it's just something for them to complain.
Yeah,
to Apple
and they knew
about.
It was coming. Apple announced it, and they told everyone it was coming, and now it's on its way. And now all these businesses believe that they're going to be in a lot of trouble because they are not able to use data to sell you stuff. My God, the end of the Facebook is coming.
Yeah,
it's not going anywhere, folks. All right, face it.
Well, and let's face it.
Face it. Ha ha ha. Face it.
They're going to. The end user is going to inquire about a product when they want the product. I don't care what they use. If you're in a situation and you need a plumber, you're going to go Google local plumbers in your area. Whether it's you get advertisements through Facebook or you're going to do the research. I don't see it impeding sales of anything. But
I could tell you personally, my own business, I've done the Facebook ad thing, not really my style, and word of mouth in these bride Facebook groups for my WV Productions company is how I'm getting my business.
Yeah,
I don't do any advertising whatsoever because it's a part-time job because it's not my full-time. That's why I can do a lower paying job. I don't need a bigger paying job because I make a good $20K at least from doing my videography.
Yeah.
So I'm set, and that's important. But there's not times where I've clicked on ads and took a look at them. I really avoid the Facebook ones, but the Instagram ones sometimes really get me.
Yeah, me too. Some of the they're all tied into what you're viewing on Instagram.
Yeah, of course.
So,
they're one and the same. But to wrap up iMessage, I think besides the end-to-end encryption, just the idea that you could just respond on any device is just so convenient. And again, you really don't have that anywhere. What other Google doesn't really. If they do, no one really uses it. And Samsung tries it, but they have two different message options when you're on there. In fact, you have to pay, I think, for like an advanced voicemail feature on there. So yeah.
Well, now you can even if you can respond to an individual in a group message.
Yep.
Well, that's a very nice feature. I've done that several times.
I've used that, but I don't have enough. I don't think I have enough groups to really use it. But it's good for who really needs it, especially like businesses need it.
My next tip would be to learn to use Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. This is going to, first of all, save you money buying Microsoft Office. And all of those Apple programs will read and write to Microsoft format as well as PDF format. And each of those programs, people say, oh, I got to learn something totally new. Well, here's the thing. When you open those three programs side by side, they all have the same icons. So when you learn the use of an icon in one app, it's going to have the exact same use in the others. So the learning curve is nowhere near as great as people think. And most people only need a basic word processor, a basic spreadsheet program, and a basic, PowerPoint or Keynote presentation software. Most people only use maybe 5 to 8% of the capability of those products. Now, Pages, Numbers, and Keynote are very powerful. I don't want to mislead anyone. You can take them to the nth degree, but they can be as simple or as complex as you want to make them. Let's put it that way. So they're very capable programs. They can write across multiple platforms. You can export CSV files. You can export Microsoft formatted files. You can read Microsoft formatted files. So there's plenty of capability there. And I really like these products. I like the suite itself. I've been using it since Mac days, Mac Cloud days, the very beginning. What was that? iWork, yeah, that was the beginning of it. And they used to charge you only like $39 with the purchase or $79 for it. Yeah, and remember, you're paying a $99 a year subscription for Office 365, which is what it is now. Yeah. Think about it now where you're getting this software completely free. It's part of iCloud. And it's not as hard as you think it is because we have a great YouTube video that tells you how to do it. That's right. And any upgrades, any updates to those programs, you get automatically.
Yep. Now, 365 does that, but you're paying for that every year.
Yeah.
I tell people buying a one-time purchase of Office is fine, but honestly, you have Google that's free. Like, honestly, I'd rather you use Google before you even use Office at all.
Yeah. I think I think there are some things that Apple could do. They need to make up their mind if they're going to make a push into the corporate world, because that's where Microsoft, let's face it, that's where Microsoft has its stronghold.
And I wanted to tell you that we do have a beginners part of Numbers and of Pages on our YouTube channel. Please check them out. And obviously our Pages one is really the number one popular. It's a 97% happy customers that watch that video. So we appreciate the feedback on that. Even Frank's one starting to creep up there and has 100% feedback.
Wow,
so
very good.
Yeah, so we just have a new one that came out. 100% satisfaction of likes on our YouTube channel. So check it out, guys. We already give you the tools necessary to help you out. We haven't done Keynote yet, which we could do, and then we're gonna try to do more of these videos. So I do agree about the Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. You get it for free and you save money. How can you not want to do that?
There's so many programs that you get with your Mac and your phone. We haven't even touched on iMovie. How powerful iMovie is.
I agree. Or even making your own music, GarageBand, or even recording a podcast like we do. Yep. We started that in GarageBand. It was much easier. Zoom has made this very easy now, as convenient. But I used to start everything in GarageBand.
Yep.
And my final feature that I use a lot, especially now that tax season's coming up, is the markup feature. Now, markup is allowing you to take a PDF or an image, and you're allowed to draw on it, put items on it. But my main thing is signatures.
Yes.
You can do a signature on your Mac or on your iOS. So when I have clients sign an invoice, I tell them to use the markup feature, use a signature, and you can have one of your pre-programmed signatures you've already created, fill out, and that way you don't have to print them out, sign them, scan them, and put them back.
Have pre-programmed signatures on your iPhone? Oh my
God.
God. Gee, that sounds like a instructional video you need to make, Will.
Oh, okay.
Show people. I don't. How many people know how to do that?
I don't think a lot of people do. So I would say that is a great feature to talk about. Absolutely. I would have to make that feature up. Or you could do it, Frank. You're home all the damn time. I'm the one going to work. I'm the one that's got the new kid. I have bowling tomorrow, and I edit this podcast. What the hell, Frank? You go play on all 4 of your drums. Why don't you show the people how to use
6 sets of drums?
6 sets of drum. Why don't you show them how to do the markup feature?
Maybe I will, Will.
All right. Fine. Thank you.
And
thank you. God damn. Like, I got to do it all. I got to do everything. You were creative.
Hey, it's your
longer
show.
than me. It's not my show. It's a people's show, and you're just here.
All right. My last item is always add the iPhone, the Apple Store, and Apple Support apps on your iPad and your iPhone. These are fantastic apps. It's the fastest and easiest way to purchase and contact Apple Support if you should have any problem. I can't tell you how many times I would tell people, they would call me, I got this kind of problem. Should I go to the store? I said, no, download this app on your phone or your iPad. And what's nice about it, when you sign in with your Apple ID and password, it knows all of the products that you have registered to that ID. And you can ask specific questions through that app. You can chat with an Apple Support person. You can call Apple Support. And guess what? You can even elect, if the wait time is high, like they have high volumes, they'll tell you right there, if we'll call you back in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. You can have them, and if that day isn't convenient for you, you can schedule a call on another day, and they will call you. Now, not only that, these are actual Apple employees. So they're Apple Support employees. It's not a third-party farmed-out service. I know, Will, you've dealt with them a couple times. I've dealt with them a couple times. It's a great service. I can't talk highly enough about it. I think it's fantastic. Yeah,
I'll give you the best comparison. I called a Lenovo hotline today, which was on their main contact page. Now, I'm going to let you know what I did. I put the serial number of the product in. There's a contact us. I call the number. I tell them the serial number of the product. They're like, oh, this is a different pad. I have to get you over to it's like the one of their pads, but I need to go to the ThinkPad support. So they had to move me over to another person. I was like, wait a minute. So I put the serial number in. I went to the support page. I called the number, and it took me to the wrong support, which was supposed to go to ThinkPad support. I'm like, what the hell is that? And this is an example of why when you talk to phone support, maybe other than Amazon, I can't think of a better experience than Apple.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And there are times when you'll maybe the first person you talk to.
Yeah, they're very basic trained here. They're nowhere near a creative, or I would say they're not even near a specialist at an Apple store. And if you're lucky, you'll get to talk to somebody because Apple stores are still not back at full capacity, you will sometimes be talking to someone that worked at the Apple store or still does. And that could be a creative, it could be a specialist, it could be a service specialist who really knows their stuff.
Yeah.
So, and of course, they're limited on what they can do unless they talk to a tier 2. And by the way, if you want to complain, just say I need a tier 2, and you'll get the right person that you want.
And not only that, you can give them permission to share your screen
Yep.
And they can watch exactly what you're doing
Yep.
on your phone, on your iPad, on your Mac. And I mean, I've had nothing but, and they're very, very nice. I can't say enough good things about them. I really enjoyed when I call.
I can tell you that for me personally, the Apple Store app is not very useful because we have inside contacts, so
Right.
we would never probably order anything from the Apple Store app. But Apple Support, definitely use that. It's able to tell you exactly what to do, how to do it. Very powerful. You can do a search for anything you need to look in there. In fact, when people ask me, how do you do this? I go to Apple Support, look it up, and I share it directly from the app. I wish that Apple Support app could be on everyone's phones by default. They can't be legally, but you should. I would absolutely agree with you, Frank.
Well,
download the Apple Support app.
when we would do setups, those two apps, we would automatically.
Apple Store, I think,
have them
automatically
put on
is
there.
on there, but Apple Store, I think, is on everybody's phone.
Now, I use the Apple Store. I mean, even though I'm in close proximity, but I tout it because if you're in an area like my sister-in-law lives in South Carolina, they have to travel 3 hours to go to the Charleston store. Okay, so I said, look on the Apple Store app for what you're looking for, and you can contact somebody right there. And most cases, you'll have, if you want to buy the product, you can use your Apple Pay to pay for it, and you'll have it in a few days in most cases.
It's funny, Frank. I just opened the Apple Store app, and there's a section called For Me that tells you like suggestions that you need to do. Yep. One of them is talking about the AppleCare plan is available to purchase until March 27th of 2021. So it's actually recommending that I get AppleCare on one of my products. I'm trying to figure out right now what product that is, but I'm thinking it's the Apple Watch.
Yeah.
That's at least I'm thinking, but that's very interesting. So I think that's kind of neat. I didn't even know they had that feature in there, or if they did, it's not useful to me. But you could also book the sessions that we had at the Today at Apple's, but they're not obviously going on right now. But I agree. These are 10 tips, Bo. These are tips that we hope you take. I think that the top ones that we talked about with iCloud, TimeMachine should definitely be one of them. Photos is more of like for fun, sidecars for fun. Message, I'm sure most people are already using, but don't realize, really the benefit of it if you were to switch your platforms around. Yeah. And I think like features like photos, markup, iWork, those are things that you may use that I think if you dive into it, I think you'll really enjoy them.
Well, I tell you another app that I use a lot is iBooks. I love iBooks.
Well, I don't know how to read, Frank, so that's why I just stick to my podcast.
Well, you can get some graphic novels. That would help.
I need some help in my vocabulary. Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show for this week. We want to thank everybody for coming and joining us for each episode. Every single Friday, we have a new one. Please check out our YouTube channel and look at all the great videos that we do post up there that include training, but also a video version of this podcast. I am Will TLD. Thank you very much for another great week. That is Keto Frank Funk. Thank you, guys. We will be here for another great week of Apple stuff, and I love every single one of you.
Peace out, man.